Kendrick Lamar just did it again, and by the time this video is over, the way you hear every single one of his songs is going to change permanently. There is a theory spreading through hip-hop right now that is so explosive, so layered, and so perfectly constructed that if even half of it is true, we are looking at the single greatest chess move in the history of rap warfare. And the name at the center of it is one nobody wanted to say out loud. The game. Yes, that game. The same man who has been publicly heartbroken that Kendrick Lamar won't pick up the phone might be the very person Kendrick Lamar embedded inside the enemy's camp years ago. And the receipts are hiding in plain sight inside a song the whole world has already heard a million times. Now, before we go one step further, I hope everybody out there is doing good, everybody except the flag bearers of the OVO echo chamber, because for them, this one is going to hurt. And listen, hit that like button right now, because every like is a receipt they can't delete. Every single one. We are not just watching a video today. We are documenting a moment, and when this theory fully detonates in the mainstream, you're going to want to have been here before it was cool. So what is the theory? Let's strip it down to the bone. The theory says that back during the most paranoid stretch of the Kendrick Lamar and Drake war, the stretch where Drake was so rattled, so convinced that somebody in his own house was leaking, that he tried to get ahead of it by claiming he fed Kendrick Lamar false information on purpose. The theory says the mole was real. And the mole was the game. The Compton veteran. The man who has carried Kendrick Lamar's city on his back since before Kendrick Lamar had a deal. The same man who, on the surface, has been visibly wounded by Kendrick Lamar's silence ever since. And I know how that sounds. I know. Off the top, it sounds insane. It sounds like the kind of thing somebody cooks up at 3 in the morning after reading too many lyric threads. But here's the part nobody saw coming. The deeper you dig into the actual bars, the actual timeline, and the actual behavior of everyone involved, the less insane it gets. And that's exactly why we need to walk through all of it, slowly, carefully, piece by piece, because by the end, you're going to have to decide for yourself which side the evidence lands on. Now, let's rewind to where all of this started, the paranoia era. Remember what that looked like? Kendrick Lamar drops, and the precision is surgical. Not general disrespect, specific, intimate, inside information level detail. And Drake's response told us everything. Drake didn't laugh it off. Drake didn't brush it away. Drake panicked, publicly, and reached for the oldest excuse in the book. We fed you that. Think about what that claim actually confesses. You don't announce a counterintelligence operation unless you genuinely believe there's an intelligence breach. Drake believed it. Drake looked around his own circle. The payroll, the entourage economy, 100 people drawing checks, and Drake couldn't figure out which face was the mask. That's not speculation. That's a man telling on himself in real time. And honestly, whatever Kendrick Lamar was doing during that stretch, true, false, or something in between, it worked. It worked so well that Drake is still making music about loyalty. Still. All this time later. The Irish freestyle, the Iceman rollout, song after song circling the same wound. Who's real? Who's fake? Who's switched? Who sold what? Kendrick Lamar didn't just win a battle. Kendrick Lamar installed a permanent splinter in Drake's head, and every project since has been Drake trying to dig it out with a pen. So that brings us to the song. The song that keeps giving. The song that has peeled back more layers than anything else from that entire war. 616 in LA. And I need you to understand something about this record before we touch a single bar. This song was never just a diss. This song was a message in a bottle, addressed to one man, written in a language only that man fully speaks. Kanye West said it best years ago, Drake disses you in a way that only you know he's talking to you. Well, Kendrick Lamar studied that playbook, improved it, and sent it back. The first verse of that song has been dissected by everybody, and I mean everybody. Some say it's written from Drake's perspective, some say it's a mirror, some say it's a warning. But in my honest opinion, there's only one person on earth who understands every single syllable of that verse in its totality, and that person is Drake. That's the genius of it. That's the cruelty of it. It's a letter that the whole world gets to read, but only one reader fully understands. Now, let's get to the bars that started this whole fire. Kendrick Lamar, talking directly to Drake, starts dismantling the propaganda machine, the misinformation, the narrative spinning, the content creators on the payroll, the whole conglomerate. And when you're really paying attention, that's exactly what it is, a conglomerate. Look around. The engagement pages, the streamers, the talking heads who all sing from the same hymn sheet within an hour of anything dropping. Kendrick Lamar saw that ecosystem for what it was before most of us did, and he put it in the music. And then comes the moment. The moment the entire theory is built on. Kendrick Lamar says, "The wires in your circle should puzzle you. If you were street smart, you would have caught that your entourage is only there to hustle you. 100 people on salary. 20 of them want you as a casualty. One of them is actually next to you. 2 of them are tired of your lifestyle and just don't have the audacity to say it to your face." Read it again. Slowly. 100 on salary. 20 want him as a casualty. 1 is actually next to him. 2 are tired of the lifestyle. Now do the math that the internet has been doing for weeks. 20 want him gone. 1 is next to him. 20 plus 1. 21. Some people hear that and immediately jump to the Atlanta connection, the right-hand man, the one whose own words about pushing Drake to diss and diss and diss came back to haunt him in that pre-beef interview. And that's a valid read. That's the popular read, actually. But here's where the new theory goes somewhere far more dangerous. Because what if Kendrick Lamar wasn't just pointing at the obvious suspect? What if Kendrick Lamar was doing something far more surgical, planting a name in Drake's head that Drake would never, ever be able to unhear? Because let's talk about who actually fits the rest of that description. Who takes Drake through the hood? Who walks Drake through the projects? Who has positioned himself, for over a decade, as the big homie, the protector, the one who gives him game, pun absolutely intended? Who has been photographed with Drake, been in the studio with Drake, been close enough to Drake's operation to see the wires, the payroll, the whole machinery? The game. The game fits that silhouette like a glove. And that's exactly why people are looking at those bars and saying, wait a minute. Wait a whole minute. And it doesn't stop there, because here's a detail that changes the temperature of the entire conversation. There's reporting out there, shout out to the researchers who caught this, that a certain video featuring Drake and the game was either filmed or posted on June 16th. In LA, 6/16. In LA. Now sit with that. Kendrick Lamar names a song, 6/16 in LA, fills that song with talk about a mole in Drake's camp, and the date itself doubles as a landmark on the Drake Endgame timeline. If that's a coincidence, it's the most poetic coincidence in rap history. And Kendrick Lamar is not a poet of coincidences. Kendrick Lamar is a man who hides meanings inside meanings, and then lets time do the marketing. But wait, because this is where I have to pump the brakes and give you my honest read, and I want you to take everything I say with a grain of salt, because you've got your own mind and I respect that. Here's the question that breaks the theory in half. What does the game actually gain? Run it through. If the game is the mole, that means the game spent years in Drake's orbit gathering intelligence, building trust, playing a role for what? There's no visible prize. No album placement. No feature. No public alliance with Kendrick Lamar that paid off. Actually, the opposite. The visible record shows a man who feels abandoned by Kendrick Lamar. The game has said it himself, publicly, more than once. Kendrick Lamar won't answer the calls. Kendrick Lamar won't acknowledge him. The game wasn't at the pop-out, a hometown coronation, a celebration of the city, and one of the city's most famous soldiers was standing outside, watching like the rest of us. And he told us it stung. He made videos about it. That's not what a decorated double agent's retirement party looks like. So you tell me, if the game ran the greatest long con in hip-hop history, where's the parade? Where's the reward? Unless, and this is the counter-theory that keeps me up at night, the reward is something we can't see yet. Something behind the curtain. Because here's the thing about Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar settles debts on his own schedule, in his own currency, and the rest of us usually find out about it years later, in a verse we didn't understand the first 40 times. But now let's flip the board over entirely, because there's a third possibility, and this is the one I personally land on, and I'll tell you why. What if there is no mole at all? What if the mole was never a person? What if the mole was a weapon? Think about how Kendrick Lamar actually fights. Drake is predictable. I said it before and I'll say it again. Drake is predictable. Any battle rapper will tell you, you don't need a spy to predict your opponent. You study them. You game out every angle they could possibly take, every angle they could possibly swing from, and then you pre-answer all of it. That's not espionage, that's preparation. When Drake dropped push-ups, what was the strategy? Seeds of doubt. Drake went at Kendrick Lamar's camp, Kendrick Lamar's deal, Kendrick Lamar's money, the 50%, top dog, all of it. Drake's whole play was, make the other side paranoid about its own people. Now look at what Kendrick Lamar did in response. The exact same play, but deeper, smarter, and with a 2-year fuse on it. 100 on salary. 20 want you gone. 1 is right next to you. Kendrick Lamar didn't need that to be true. Kendrick Lamar needed Drake to believe it might be true. And look at the results. Look at what Drake's world has become since that song. A shrinking circle, loyalty anthems, public suspicion, and entourage under permanent audit. Kendrick Lamar didn't just plant a seed of doubt. Kendrick Lamar planted an entire forest, and Drake has been lost in it ever since. And that right there is the dark genius of the title. 616 in LA isn't a timestamp. It's a fog machine. It's a date that points in 5 directions at once. Mike Zombie's song, the Father's Day theories, the Drake endgame footage, all of it, so that Drake can't even settle on a direction to be paranoid in. Every road on the map says, maybe him. Every friend becomes a question mark. Every anniversary becomes a reminder. That's not a diss track. That's psychological infrastructure. Now here's where it gets even colder, because Kendrick Lamar didn't stop at Drake. Go back and listen to G-Nex with fresh ears, and tell me some of those bars don't read completely differently now. If you ain't coming with no chili, what you come for? He feel like he entitled, cause he knew me since a kid. I cut my granny off if she don't see it how I see it. Who does that sound like? Who carries themselves as entitled to Kendrick Lamar's time, Kendrick Lamar's energy, Kendrick Lamar's acknowledgement, because of history, because of the city, because of who knew who first. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying the description has a shape, and that shape has been doing interviews about unanswered phone calls. And go even further back. All the way back to Element. Tell me what you gon' do to me. Confrontation ain't nothing new to me. You could bring a bullet, bring a sword, bring a morgue, but you can't bring the truth to me. And then, I don't even want your congratulations. At the time, we all heard that as general war talk. But run the timeline. Who was publicly congratulating Kendrick Lamar in that window? Who has spent years performing Big Brother pride over Kendrick Lamar's rise while privately simmering about being left out of it? I don't even want your congratulations hits different when you picture it landing on a specific doorstep in Compton. And let's not ignore the coldest detail of all, the one that turned a theory into a wildfire. I see dead people. That's not just a movie reference, and you already know that. That phrase lives inside one of the game's biggest records, a cornerstone of his catalog, one of the defining moments of his career. And Kendrick Lamar took that phrase and turned it into the opening shot of the biggest battle anthem of the decade. Coincidence? Maybe. But when the same artist who hides moles in arithmetic decides to open a war with the signature phrase of a specific man's classic record, I stop believing in accidents. So now we've got a full picture, and it's time to sort the evidence into piles. Pile 1. For the theory. The game's decade of proximity to Drake. The guide through the hood roll that matches the "Let me give you some game, my little homie" framing almost word for word. The 616 date collision. The wires in your circled passage that reads like a personnel file. Pile 2. Against the theory. No visible gain. The public estrangement. The pop-out snub. A trail of bars across multiple years and multiple albums that read less like cover for an ally and more like disappointment in a man Kendrick Lamar once respected. And pile 3, the pile I keep coming back to, Kendrick Lamar never needed the game to be the mole. Kendrick Lamar only needed Drake to wonder. And that's the masterstroke, isn't it? Because if the goal was psychological demolition, the beauty of the plan is that it works in every scenario. If the game is the mole, Drake was compromised for years and never knew. If the game is innocent, Drake still has to sit across from him at every session wondering. And if the game was never involved at all, then Kendrick Lamar detonated a friendship, poisoned a 10-year alliance, and never spent a single bar doing it directly. 3 outcomes. Kendrick Lamar wins all 3. That's not rapping. That's warfare by other means. But wait. There's one more layer, and it's the darkest one. What if the estrangement is the cover? What if the unanswered calls, the public hurt, the distance, what if all of that is the most expensive acting in hip-hop history? Think about what a real long-term asset requires. It requires distance. It requires plausible deniability. It requires that nobody, not the fans, not the media, not the target, ever sees the connection. If the game really was embedded, then the worst possible thing Kendrick Lamar could do is embrace him publicly. The silence wouldn't be rejection. The silence would be protection. I want to be clear, I don't believe that's what's happening. The weight of the evidence doesn't point there. But the fact that the theory can even be constructed, that the architecture of it holds together this well, tells you everything about the level Kendrick Lamar has been operating on. Kendrick Lamar makes art so dense that reality itself starts looking like a clue. And meanwhile, look at the other side of the board. While all of this is unfolding, what is the OVO echo chamber doing? The same thing it always does. The engagement pages churn out the same talking points within the hour. The streamers perform their loyalty like it's a shift they're clocking into. And the man at the top of it all keeps feeding the machine, because the machine is all that's holding up the facade. They count words. They count mentions. They build entire conspiracies out of syllable patterns while missing the forest that's on fire right in front of them. Kendrick Lamar was right about all of it. They are never going to get over what happened. And the proof is that all these years later, a single 16-bar passage from a Lucy still has the entire ecosystem in a chokehold. Because here's the bottom line, and I need you to hear this clearly. Whether the game is the mole or not, and for the record, my verdict is no, he isn't, and the bars themselves back me up, because Kendrick Lamar made it crystal clear on that same song. Anybody standing with the other side exists with them, period. Exterminate them, no halfway, no exceptions. Does that sound like a man protecting an asset? Or does that sound like a man drawing a line through everyone who chose that side, including the ones from his own city? That's the bar that breaks the theory for me. You don't write that about your inside man. You write that about a man who picked the wrong table. But the fact that we're even having this conversation? That's the real story. That's the genius. Kendrick Lamar wrote a song so layered that years later, it spawns investigations, theories, timelines, and full-blown forensic breakdowns. Nobody else in music, nobody, makes art that keeps detonating on a delay like this. The verse ended a long time ago. The war ended. And the song is still fighting. So here's where I land, and then I want to hear from you. The game is not the mole. The game is the message. Kendrick Lamar pointed at the most familiar face in Drake's Rolodex, the guide, the big homie, the Compton shield, and made Drake see a question mark where a friend used to be. And all these years later, that friendship is quiet, that camp is paranoid, and the songs about loyalty keep coming because the splinter never came out. Kendrick Lamar didn't need to beat the machine. Kendrick Lamar just convinced the machine's owner that the machine had a virus. And machines eat themselves looking for viruses. Now it's your turn. Sound off below, and don't just tell me whose side you're on, tell me why. Is the game the greatest sleeper agent rap has ever seen, or is this whole theory just another layer of Kendrick Lamar's psychological warfare working exactly as designed? And here's the real question nobody's asking. If Kendrick Lamar did plant a name in those bars, why that name? Why the one man from his own city who made his entire career off loyalty? Whose betrayal, real or imagined, would hurt Drake the most? Think about it. Then get in the comments, because I read them and the best theory in this comment section is getting pinned. And listen, if this breakdown opened your eyes even a little, you already know what to do. That like button is a receipt they can't delete. The subscribe button is a seat at the table for what's coming next, because trust me, what I've got lined up for this weekend makes this video look like a warm-up. There's an announcement coming Saturday that is going to change everything about where this channel goes from here, and you're going to want to be inside before the doors open. And if you want more right now, the videos on your screen are handpicked, the 616 deep dive, the full GNX forensic breakdown, the pop-out documentary. Pick one. Keep the session going. Because the deeper you go into this music, the more you realize the surface was never the story. The mask is off, the wires are showing, and the game, all of it, every meaning of that word is still being played. I'll see you in the next one.